What the polls tell us about Harris versus Trump. There are two things giving the vice president a lift in the short term: unity and the energy. Whatever your feelings are about Donald Trump as a candidate, the pollster Tony, a top advisor for all of Mr. Trump's presidential campaigns, knows his business. He saw a path to a Trump victory over Hillary Clinton in 2016 that others didn't. Campaigns often leak the polling memos to drive a prepotent narrative, so it's sensible to take such memos with a grain of salt. But when Mr. App puts one out, I take it seriously. So when he warned the last week of Harris' honeymoon as Democrats were rallying around the vice president, I knew it was only a matter of time before the public polls would show what the Trump campaign was likely seeing privately. 2 days later, there it was. The New York Times Siena College poll showed the race narrowing to just a 1-point Trump advantage nationally over Vice President Kamala Harris. Among likely voters, a major shift from a prior Times Siena poll, which showed Mr. Trump ahead of President Biden by 6 points. This is, to use the parlance of our time, a vibe shift. It's hard for me to overstate the euphoria Republican activists were feeling about the election coming out of their convention in Milwaukee, and indeed before the shakeup atop the Democratic ticket. Most voters said that they thought that Mr. Trump would win in November, according to a July poll by Echelon Insight, where I'm a founding partner. Now, with around $200 million raised for Mrs. Harris in a week, it wouldn't be surprising to see a somewhat different result if you ask the voters that question again. There are two things giving Ms. Harris a lift in the short term: unity and energy. The first is the party unity she enjoys by virtue of being the presumptive nominee without having had to endure a bruising Democratic primary battle. I've described this as the equivalent of a video game cheat code that lets you skip past some difficult but tedious early levels on the way to directly fighting the big bad boss at the end of the game. Ms. Harris didn't have to spend the last year getting pummeled by or trying to pummel Democratic presidential rivals, almost certainly including some of the very Democrats who are now under consideration to be her vice presidential nominee. While some of the out of the mainstream views she espoused during an unsuccessful 2020 presidential run will no doubt follow her in this election. Ms. Harris benefits greatly from not yet having had to navigate the several issues that divide the Democratic Party these days, including border security, crime and policing, and the war in Gaza. The second thing Ms. Harris gets is a Democratic voter coalition reset to Obama-era factory setting. Democrats have always done better with the younger voters, but starting with the 2008 cycle, Democrats really began running up the numbers in that group. Advantages among voters of color grew substantially as well, triggering Republican panic. The Trump-Biden rematch, however, saw a reduction in polarization among generals and racial lines, with Mr. Trump narrowing Mr. Biden's margin among groups like the Black man and Generation Z. With Mr. Biden out and Ms. Harris in, early evidence suggests some reversion to the before times. According to last week's accounts of the Times Siena poll, Ms. Harris is faring better among groups that Mr. Biden had been the weakest in, especially younger voters and non-white voters. America is a pretty evenly divided country. We are fairly split down the middle in terms of partisan identification. We are also deeply polarized, with few people breaking from their own side to express the support for a candidate of another party. I believe Mr. Biden's age and apparent decline functioned like a black hole that bent right around it, warping our view of the evenly divided electorate. Now, with that distorting force removed, we are back to the very close race we could have and should have expecting all along.